The final seconds. Center Grove is state champion.
Amber Harris again, and she continues to roll.
Well, Phillips is a very good player and extremely intelligent.
For a national title, and the shot is good! And Ben Davis comes away with a 71-69 win.
Lawrence North is gonna win it!
Hello again, friends. This is Josh Ayen with the MIC Network, ready to break down the next region in our Champion of Champions girls basketball tournament. First off, we'd like to welcome our crew to this broadcast. We've got Darrell Morton Jr. joining us, as well as two members of the North Central women's basketball coaching staff in head coach DeeAnn Ramey and assistant coach Kendall Kreinhagen, who was a member of the 2004 and 2007 state title teams from Brebeuf. Let's get to it. Let's reveal the Northeast region.
Our number one seed for this region, an unblemished 27-0 record, led by Ray Little as the head coach, the 1987 Noblesville Lady Millers. They got a bye in the first round and will be taking on the winner of a first-round game between 2004 Brebeuf and 2006 Heritage Christian. To round out the bottom half of this bracket, you've got the two-seeded 2000 Cathedral Fighting Irish, the first of a back-to-back championship team led by Linda Bamrick. They're taking on a recent team that many people are familiar with in 2018 Warren Central. And finally, the last two teams of the Northeast region, a three-seed, another recent state champion in 2019 Hamilton Southeastern. They're taking on the six-seeded 2012 North Central Lady Panthers. What are your thoughts on the Northeast region?
Well, it's tough, Coach. It's tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. There's a lot of good talent out there, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. Noblesville is definitely. I mean, you got to give them a lot of props with being undefeated. Chrissy Davis and Courtney Cox. You know, they're going to be tough, definitely.
Yeah. I don't like that Brebeuf first-round matchup with that Heritage Christian team, though.
Well, I tell you what, that is a tough matchup. And really, I tell you what, really, there is no ducking in this at all because every team presents problems for the other team as well. But I look at some of the recent champions at the number three and number 6 matchup would be a very interesting matchup there, Coach. What do you think, Coach Ramey?
Yeah, you know, it is. That was a very interesting matchup because, you know, very similar teams, I think. You know, HSC, a lot of senior-oriented with the exception of Parrish, but a very team-oriented. And I believe, you know, this was probably one of the best all-around teams that we had. Nariah Taylor certainly provided that height and rebounding edge for us and scoring attack. But we also had Celeste Edwards, which went Division I also. Jasmine Falcon contributed a lot there. Rachel Gregory, who was a Mental Attitude Award winner. So, you know, we had, you know, three Division I players starting, and HSC pretty much did as well.
I'll tell you, you pretty much know the problems that Parrish would present. How would you go about guarding her in this round, in this game? What would you throw at her?
I tell you what, our best defender that year probably was Celeste Edwards. And Celeste Edwards, you know, her quickness, her athletic ability, she's one whose length in her arms. I mean, it looked like she was all arms and legs. And so she could really provide maybe put a lot of pressure with her quickness on Parrish, and then with her arm length, you know, I mean, Parrish has a great range. So, but try to push her out as far as she can with her arm length. But right here and now, that's who I would put on it. Celeste Edwards would have her try to stop her. And I think she'd be able to step up to that challenge.
Okay, well, let's look at that 2-7 matchup with Warren Central winning in 18, of course. That was a year that they knocked off, upset a Pike squad. Everyone thought Pike was going to be able to make it back, but that didn't happen. And Warren Central did a tremendous job in taking it all the way and winning the state crown. But 2000 Cathedral was a pretty tough team too as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that 2000 Cathedral team was pretty amazing. And they had played together for so long that that first five was just really, really powerful. And yeah, but I think that the depth of that cathedral team had might give a little bit of trouble to that Warren team, because that Warren team was there. They struggled for some depth a little bit, whereas powerful the first five were. I think Cathedral might have been able to present some problems in a tournament setting when you have to have some fresh legs going through and have a little bit of a bench, which also makes it very impressive that Warren was able to do what they were able to do with a lot of relying on their first five.
They always found a way, it seemed like.
They did. And, you know, the thing about them is they were gritty. They were really, really a gritty team that just kept fighting and fighting and fighting.
Yeah.
Well, who on Cathedral would guard Dodd?
That's a good question.
It's Ellen. What's Ellen's last name?
Right, was it
Ellen Ramey.
Yeah, Ellen Ream.
Ellen Ream, yes.
Yeah, and she went on to play volleyball at Florida. She was a Division I volleyball player at Florida. So, yeah, that'd be interesting. I'd like to see that game.
That would be a great matchup. Now, you mentioned earlier you didn't like the 4-5 matchup in Heritage Christian at all. Tell me why. Tell us why you don't like that matchup.
Well, no, I do. We actually played them, but just not with that 04 team versus their 06 team. We played them every year. But the one thing that we have on that 04 team that I was just talking to Coach Ramey about them earlier today. There were 6 college athletes, 5 Division I, just not all in basketball. And our starting lineup, our point guard played at University of North Texas. Our forward, Amber Jackson, who was 6'1", played at North Texas. We had a 6'6", Tashia Phillips, was a freshman that year on that team, who ends up being Miss Basketball. Then we had a 5'11" wing and Kira Pappas. And then our other guard, Heather Gilligan, was about a 5'8". We come in off the bench with a 6'2" Natalie Mulligan, who plays volleyball at Penn State and ends up transferring to Wake Forest and finishes her volleyball career there. And then a bunch of role players that were young kids at the time that would come in and just dominate. So, but that Heritage Christian team was a well-oiled machine, and that's why they won 4 in a row. I mean, they were that ball. I mean, the way that they would move that ball and run Rick's motion offense, and I mean, Kelly Ferris played at UConn for a reason, and won national championships there. And so, I cannot remember if we beat them. When we played them, that team, I don't remember if we would have beaten them in that 06 year. But it would have presented a definite challenge. I mean, Tashia Phillips inside was always tough. But our point guard made us go, and Amanda Katroki, and her ability to control the game was just unbelievable. But then Amber Jackson is underestimated. I mean, you look at her and you're thinking, really, she's going to dominate? But she was just had a knack for the ball and could score from all levels. So it would have presented an interesting matchup.
And we talk about the number 1 seed in this region, Noblesville. That was before class basketball, so they had to do it I guess, like people said, the hard way, where they had to do 2 games in a day. I do believe the early game. I forgot who did they play in the early game? I want to say Columbia City, but I think I'm probably wrong. But they had to do, like I said, do the 2 a days, which is tough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, well, Darrell, like you said, tons of talent across the board. Really solid matchups, too. And fans, it's your time to vote. Obviously, Noblesville gets the first round bye, but you get 3 matchups to vote from in this Northeast region. Remember, we're going to be doing this on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. On Facebook, you can either comment on the graphics when we post those, or on our Facebook story, and on Twitter and on Instagram, you can go to Mick Network Ayen to place your votes. That is Mick Network Ayen.